Well, hello, everybody. It's 10:30. Is it okay if we call the meeting to order? I can't tell if we have a quorum, but I'll ask that the roll be called.
Well, Lauren, this is Todd. I would just let you know that, Elaine is back. Never mind.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just grabbing something. So certainly I'll call the roll. Ryan Davidson. Tom Daly. Rod Beck. We knew they were in a hearing today, but needed to ask. Alexis Pickering.
Here.
Thank you. Lance McGinnis Brown.
Here.
Greg Rast. Brad Holton. John Brunel.
Here.
Jeff Flynn.
Here.
Ashley Ford Squires.
Here.
Mayor McLean.
Here. Ah, shit.
Jerem Wagner.
Here.
Mike Dittenberg.
Here.
Helen Russell.
Here.
John Evans. Rob Fisher. Lee Belt. Joe Steer. Todd Lavoie.
Here.
Debbie Kling.
Mark Stoyer here for Debbie.
Thank you, Mark. Dale Reynolds. David Hershey or Trevor Chadwick. Jason Brinkman.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. We don't have any additions or changes to the agenda, so I do have 2 items on consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
Can you guys hear? Oh, there we go. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks. Do we have a second?
Second, this is Ashley Squires.
Thank you. And now all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. So now we have a public comment time, and I learned in advance that Ken Pajone is here. He'd like to make some comments. This is the time for anyone that's here to comment on items of the agenda to speak for 3 minutes. The action items and the special business item is not a public hearing. So we'll go ahead and start with Ken. Is Ken not here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Ken Pajone. I'm a resident of Boise City. I want to thank you for reading my previous written comments. The comments today are in addition to those comments. In addition to my 5 years of transit management experience, I also have 5 years of public purchasing experience, which includes working as the purchasing officer for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Valley Regional Transit is a political subdivision of the state, subject to Idaho Code Title 67, Chapter 28. That chapter requires the bid to be awarded to the lowest bidder. The current proposal is to award a bid that is 23% higher, or $700,000 higher than the other bid. As far as I can tell, staff has not justified the difference. DOT says it never has enough money, so how can it pay an extra $700,000 over a 7-year period based on promises of efficiencies. What are those efficiencies, and how are those efficiencies going to save $100,000 per year? I would recommend to the board to consider the protest as merit. And look
Ken,
further
I'm sorry,
into the
could you-
protest. I'm
Ken,
willing
could
to
you
serve
hold on
an
just a minute?
evaluation team if you wish. 2 or 1/3, another way of looking at it, of the evaluation team members appear to have worked for MV Transportation in the past. This is a clear conflict of interest and gives the appearance of impropriety. One of the questions I would have is, did the evaluators meet as a group or did they meet individually? As Transdev has noted, it appears that some of the evaluations may have been made on items not contained in the RFP. So this is something that I'd like to have the board look further into if that comment is in fact valid. And I'd like you to consider your reputation. If you choose to award a bid that is 23% higher than another bid, how does this look to the public, to the media, and to the legislature? Lastly, I'll ask for an individual vote on the contract and the contract dispute. That concludes my comments. I'm prepared to stand for questions.
Thank you, Ken. I'm going to ask that you mute yourself.
Madam Mayor, I would note
while I
that the
see if
staff
anybody has-
believes Ken's questions will be answered during the staff presentation. Of course, the board is always welcome to ask them as well.
Right, thank you. Any questions? All righty, is anybody else here to speak? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Thank you, Ken, very much. We will move into the first item of special business, the procurement protest. And I want to walk through the process for this so that we go through it in the right order. It's kind of like a city council meeting with an appeal. First, we will hear from TransDev. They have filed the protest, and I'm allowing both TransDev and VRT staff 10 minutes to present the protest. So TransDev will present the protest for 10 minutes, and then we'll hear from VRT staff and their response for 10 minutes. And then we will wrap up with a rebuttal from TransDev for 5 minutes. For protests like this, we'll need a motion at the end, either to, and of course, board members can ask questions of both the protesting party and staff. And then once we've finished asking questions, we've heard from parties and we've had rebuttals, then I would take either a motion to uphold the protest or to deny the protest. And then there'll be further steps after that. So with that, I'm going to ask that staff, please let me, you know what, I'll just turn on a timer myself so I can see it since I'm the one having people start comments. So I'll let you know when 10 minutes is up. And with that, I'll turn it over to TransDev for their presentation. I'm not hearing anything.
I just sat down. Sorry. Good
Great,
morning,
Great, thanks.
members of the board. My name is Jared Varner, and I also have with me Greg Eisenberg, representing TransDev. We just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak today. I'm representing TransDev to respectfully protest the recent award recommendation made by staff regarding the transit management contract. We recognize and respect the significant trust you place as board members in your staff. We also understand that it's not easy or taken lightly for governing board to take action counter to staff recommendation. But that said, our appeal is not made lightly either. We bring this protest forward because the concerns at stake go beyond a business disagreement. They speak directly to principles of fairness, transparency, and fiscal responsibility that I know the board of directors here values. I first want to begin addressing what we believe to be the most serious issue is the conflict of interest within the evaluation committee. Two individuals involved in scoring proposals were previously tenured employees of MB Transportation. These aren't short-term or incidental affiliations. They were significant and important positions within that company. And yet neither individual recused themselves from participating in the evaluation of proposals, including TransDev's proposal. We all know that perception matters. When former employees are allowed to directly evaluate proposals submitted by their former employer without any guardrails or recusal, it raises a legitimate question from the beginning: was the playing field level? I would specifically encourage members of the board to review individual scoring sheets. It'll be clear that the former MB employees scored TransDev around 15% lower than other panel members. While scoring variations are expected, these were significant outliers in our opinion. Even if no intentional bias occurred, the appearance of bias is itself problematic. It could undermine public confidence in the procurement process. In any public procurement process, especially one involving taxpayer dollars, transparency and impartiality must not only exist, they must be unquestionable. And the participation of former MB staff in this evaluation process violates that principle. Also want to talk a little bit about transparency. When you combine the conflict of interest issue with what we consider a lack of transparency in the process, there is room for concern. When the award was announced by staff to the contractors, no details were offered into how the selection occurred, yet we were given only 7 days to protest staff's decision. When we asked for the details, we were told a FOIA request would be submitted, which then allows 3 business days for staff to review and another 10 business days on top of that for the request to be fulfilled, which means we did not receive requested documents until late in the day, Friday, June 6th. Additional documents were received just this morning, as a matter of fact. These circumstances raise concerns about the integrity and transparency of the procurement process. We also want to talk about just fiscal stewardship. I mean, our bid did come in 23% lower than NB's, representing about $683,000 savings over the 5 years of the contract. And as the incumbent, we have no documented deficiencies. Our customer satisfaction scores are fantastic over the 7 years we've been here. And we just ask simply what value is being provided to justify such a significant additional expense. Lastly, we feel that some of the performance concerns have been misapplied. In the original board packet, the justification for awarding the contract mentioned service quality issues, specifically on-time performance and missed trips. We feel that these service quality issues are related directly to last summer, route blocking and scheduling of routes, which at that time were the responsibility of BRT and not the responsibility of TransDev staff. We are allowed to offer and we have the opportunity to provide input to these matters, but with the last service change, many of our warnings went unheeded. And we've seen about 12 months of lower performance because of it. This means that we're being held accountable for work that we are not responsible to perform. Therefore, on-time performance and missed trips shouldn't be considered a category for which our performance should be rated, given that we've clear evidence that the recent issues are outside of our control. So in closing, given the gravity of these issues, we respectfully request that the board exercise its authority to request a formal reconsideration of the award. We fully understand the weight of what we're asking. We also know this board is committed to good governance, and we trust that you'll give this protest serious consideration. That concludes our remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions for the I don't know what the word is for. Sorry. Do we have questions for the presenter?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thanks you two for coming before us. Could you, I'm Alexis Pickering, I'm on the Ada County Highway District Commission. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you mean around the metrics that you are being held responsible for? Because I think those are some of the details that I'm not quite sure what that means. So can you share some light on that and how you think you were judged against some of those metrics, or at least kind of explain that a little bit more, please, for us?
Hi, this is Greg Eisenberg. The main metric mentioned was on-time performance, something that we noted in our presentation was when I got here, on-time performance was 63%, and we've been above 80, as high as 86 for a 12-month period on multiple occasions. The concern is with the last service change, the blocking was different. So the blocking is what the bus does up until last June. A bus would run a route and then be done and go back and run the same route. Some of these buses routes were interconnected, which made one late route make the other bus late. So 29 goes out and turns into a 5. Now we have both those routes late because the 29 did not have enough time. And we don't have any data, didn't have any data on the 29 at the time. So that's kind of an example of the blocking that we're talking about that we don't have any control or say in.
Thank you.
Are there further questions? All right, thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to ask that we hear from VRT staff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. If Jason will fix the camera, I think he is. So this is Elaine Clegg. I'm the CEO of VRT. I'm going to let Tom Mortel, who is our legal counsel with Holly Troxel, kick it off first by just describing protest law under Idaho statute.
Idaho Code, this procurement was done under Idaho Code 67-2806 Cap A, which is a qualifications-based procurement, not a low bid procurement, one that allows the public entity to consider other factors other than price in determining what's the best fit for the public entity for the services requested. 2806A provides that if there's a party that submits a response to the RFP that believes it should be, it disagrees with the decision by the public entity, it can file a protest, and which TransDev did here in a timely fashion, and can present to the board the reasons why it believes the award should not go to the party that was notified would receive the contract. That's an important principle of Idaho law, that parties be given the opportunity to be heard. They've had notice of this hearing and an opportunity to come today and to present. And this board is taking the steps to provide them with process and procedure they're entitled to under Idaho law to make their case before this board and to try to persuade the board that the board should go in a different direction. Idaho law has a long history of especially in low bid protest cases, which this is not, of giving the party who was the low bidder an opportunity to be heard. Their low bid is rejected. But again, this is a statute that is a qualifications-based procurement consistent with what federal law requires in transportation procurement issues, and is consistent. What's been done here is consistent with 67-2806 Cap A. So as far as the procedure, if there's any questions, I'm happy to hear from any of the board members.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that.
I've got a question, Tom. You mentioned the procedure, which of course we're in the middle of. This is a protest and we have a hearing, but you referenced that this was a qualification-based procurement, so 67-2806A. Will Elaine be going more into what that is and how that is different than a low bid procurement process, or would you be able to provide the legal mechanisms or kind of the code that was followed there with some more information?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Under 67-2806, the public entity says, these are the services we need, give us your best price, and they pick the low bidder. There's no qualifications-based component to it. There's no evaluation component. It's who has the lowest price. That's not the section that we used here in 2806 Cap A, which allows flexibility in making an overall decision based on qualifications, where price is not the sole consideration of the public entity, but is a factor that's considered. in evaluating the responses to the RFPs.
And then,
Madam
yes,
Mayor, if I could expound just a bit, in our scoring procedure, we gave 20% of the points to price and 80% to other factors, including the qualifications that we ask for in terms of collaboration on some of the issues that we think can improve service.
all right, so that was my next question, was if in the release of the procurement document, you listed beyond price what you were looking for in terms of qualifications?
Yes, we did. And Kevin and Leslie will speak more to that.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. So first of all, VRT would like to thank TransDev for their many years of service and their participation in this competitive procurement. The decision today has to do with VRT moving forward to address some things that we'd like to improve in the system, and trying to find the management team that can best do that for us. VRT staff carefully reviewed the protest and the procurement process applicable as Tom just described. And remember, during our triennial review last year, we got top marks for our procurement process and policy. Staff maintained that the process was conducted fairly, transparently, and in accordance with all local, state, and federal requirements. And we respectfully present the following clarifications to the issues raised in the protest you just heard. Next slide, please. The process, first of all, as you remember, the board allowed the RFP to be issued on April 7th while delegating the final decision to the executive board. Notice of intent to award to MV was issued on May 21st, and then the protest was filed timely by the incumbent on May 28th. At that point, we chose to take this decision to the full board rather than to the executive board as had been delegated. And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin.
Okay, thank you. Just want to address the conflict of interest. VRT thoroughly screened all committee members for conflict of interest before the proposal review began. No evaluator has financial interest, current employment, or current relationship with MV. In addition, both employees also worked for the incumbent or the predecessor in the past. Past employment alone, especially when not recent or without an ongoing connection, does not constitute a conflict under VRT policy or FTA guidelines. VRT stands by the integrity and the objectives of its evaluation team. Pricing. Pricing was one of the multiple evaluation criteria in the best value procurement process. We evaluated the pricing according to our policy. Evaluation scoring reflected a balanced assessment of technical quality and experience and pricing consistent with the FTA for Circular 4220-1F. VRT's proposal provided significant quality and advantages, including enhanced organizational structure, workforce strategy, and provided performance in similar sized systems. The overall value offered by MV was judged to be better aligned with VRT's long-term service goals.
And before we move on to Leslie, I might note that the price difference per year is equivalent to about one operator. And so that one FTE, just as an example of where we might save efficiencies in the future, would be an example of that. Now I'll turn it over to Leslie.
So the third issue was the responsiveness of our proposal. The claim was that the proposal did not meet the requirements of the solicitation. And VRT interviewed both applicants that went to interview, and they both met all the RFP requirements. All the proposals, including TransDev, were reviewed carefully, and they were scored against the published criteria. In regards to the on-time performance, we didn't just look at missed trips or on-time performance for that. It was also in regards to maintenance, which is completely under the purview of TransDev as our current incumbent. We understand that missed trips due to traffic and whatnot are no reflection of TransDev. We understand that certain elements like scheduling are jointly managed by both. However, proactive management, accountability, and collaboration were emphasized in the RFP, and the RFP asked the new contractor to demonstrate more collaboration with VRT. The proposal in the interview revealed a higher commitment to collaboration from MV during the interviews. MV's proposal demonstrated a clear commitment to joint problem solving as well as a system-wide performance improvement. These qualitative distinctions influence final rankings, not unsubstantiated criticisms.
VRT followed its standard procurement process. VRT included ranking and price summaries with the board packet that was released on June 2nd meeting. This packet was released within the window for VRT to respond to the FOIA. The FOIA request was proceeded in accordance with Idaho law and agency policy. The information available at the time of the protest filing included all required data for a vendor to assess their standing and initiated protest. VRT has acted consistently and transparently throughout the process. Thank you.
With this, our recommendation is that the protest raises no new evidence of a procedural flaw, a policy violation, or a factual error in the procurement evaluation. The protest is based on a disagreement with the outcome, not a demonstration of irregularity. And the staff recommends the board deny the protest and proceed with the award to MV Transportation as a successful offer.
All right, thank you. Now I will take questions of staff. Well, I've got two, actually probably just one, and that goes back to the process for conflicts. Am I correct in my understanding that your conflict policy, which I think is similar to ours, is that someone with a conflict is financially benefiting or has a financial relationship with a party in question?
Yes.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's correct. And in this case, both people who've been accused of a conflict worked for both of the proposers at various times in their career, and neither of them have worked for either since 2017.
All right. Okay, thank you. And then I'd just like to see once more the list of, if you could go to the slide that address the issue related to the process and what you were looking for.
Is that the correct one?
No,
No.
that's the timing, but it's one of the issues that was raised by the protestants.
One more, I think, Jason.
Might be the next one.
There we go. Is that the correct one?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Jeff Lynn with CWI. I have a question for staff as well.
Great,
So
go
is
ahead.
is it safe to assume that in the weighted scoring that the 20% pricing was won by TransDev and the other 80% was won on services? by, who is it? MV, is that correct?
I will answer and Kevin can back me up. He's the one who compiled the scores, but yes, 80% of the scores were based on qualifications and 20% was based on price, and MV won on the qualifications.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions for staff? Alrighty, I'd like to invite Trans Dev now to, you've got 5 minutes to close and rebut anything if you'd like to.
Sure. Just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be here and to speak. We've had a fantastic relationship with this board and with staff over the past 7 years. We feel like based on our annual customer surveys that's been reflected. We've had fantastic scores. We've been given no documented deficiencies in what we've offered from our management team these past 7+ years. From a collaboration standpoint, our staff currently collaborates with VRT staff on a daily and weekly basis. Constant communication. Our team is well integrated into this team, and we felt like we've done a fantastic job of that over the years. I would simply encourage the board to take a look at the individual score sheets. There are clear outliers that I think would shed light on the conflict of interest issue. Those scores were made available to us just this morning, and looking through them, I think it's pretty clear. Again, the I's may be dotted and the T's may be crossed and policies may be followed, but there are clear differences in scoring between the folks who most recently worked with MV and those who did not. But again, we appreciate the opportunity to participate in this process. We appreciate the fact that you're spending your time to hear these issues, and we would just ask that you take a look at the scoring at a deep level and consider spending some time to do that rather than moving directly into an award of a contract. When you have time, I would encourage you to take it to continue to review this procurement. I'll go ahead, Greg. Please.
I'd just like to add one thing here was we talk about efficiency and budgeting. My last budget I submitted for next year is short 4 drivers or less, 4 employees less. So Elaine mentioned 1 person is a difference. I've already submitted the budget to staff, which has 2 less drivers and 2 other drivers. So I look at efficiencies too, and they're already in the next year's budget.
Thank you. Okay, with that, this isn't a public hearing, so I can't say I'm going to close the public hearing, but we are done with presentations, and so I would look to the board for a motion and discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Alexis. I'll move to deny the protest.
Do I have a second?
This is Mark Stoyer, City of Nampa. I support that. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. And now, Commissioner Pickering, discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just a couple of thoughts based off of hearing from staff and TransDev. I think it's obviously as a board member and a public official, I definitely understand the importance of being cost effective, supporting folks being, really wise with our taxpayer dollars. But oftentimes I've seen personally and across our entire network, how value and qualitative and collaboration really can make a huge difference and provide a bigger ROI. And so I think it's also fascinating. You were quick to accuse staff members of having a conflict of interest when they've also worked for, sounds like they've also worked for your team at some point. And it's very common it's a small pond. in the transportation world in the Treasure Valley. It's really common for folks to work for lots of the same different groups. We see it all the time at ACHD. So I think, obviously, thank you for your work. But I think right now it seems like the staff did their due diligence in evaluating, looking at the whole picture and how to best serve VRT and our riders and our taxpayers. And that's why I made my motion. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I think I'll jump in and just say a couple things. I chair this meeting, but I also do vote. I looked at this from the kind of procedural, as Tom Mortel pointed out at the beginning, the process for a protest, but also the process for the decision on the award. And with regard to conflict, I agree that the, not accusation, but the statement that there was a conflict here that should impact this decision does not meet the kind of policies and definition that we have for conflict for our staff. And I want to be clear that I fully expect our staff and trust that our staff goes into all of these with a clear mind and a focus on delivering for VRT and for each of our communities that are part of VRT. And I do not see a conflict here, so we'll be voting for the motion. On transparency, the staff put out a list of what we were looking for, provided rankings, and made a decision that they've presented us today. And finally, on qualifications, this isn't a low-cost bid. There were strategic reasons that VRT chose to use 2806 Cap A in their decision-making process for our next operator. They were clear in what they were looking for, how they would weight that, and the scorings reflected that as well. For those reasons, I'll be voting to support the motion. And we have asked for a roll call vote. So clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. I will. I've got to get the roll call back out. All right. Alexis Pickering,
Yes.
Lance McGinnis Brown, Lance, are you there? We'll come back to you. John Brunel,
Aye.
Jeff Flynn,
Aye.
Ashley Ford Squires,
Aye.
Jordan Morales,
Yes.
Lauren McLean,
Yes.
Jerem Wagner, Mayor Wagner. We'll come back to you. Mike Dittenberg,
Yes.
Helen Russell,
Aye.
Todd Lavoie,
Yes.
Mark Stoyer,
Aye.
Jason Brinkman,
Yes.
Jerem Wagner, we'll count that as an abstain. And there was one other, Lance McGinnis Brown. Abstain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Madam Chair.
11 ayes, 2 abstentions. Oh, did we get a response?
You missed John Evans.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Evans, I did skip you.
Okay, aye.
Thank you. 12 ayes, 2 abstentions. Motion passes.
All right. That is the last item on our agenda. We don't have an executive session. It was there if needed. I'll take a motion to move to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, we
Yes.
would If you'll remember, there is an action item to go ahead and act on the intent to award.
Thanks. Yep, I have this scribbled on my instructions. Because this motion to deny the protest passed, I will now take a motion to award the contract to, let's put there we go, action items.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'll move to award the transit management services contract to MV Transportation as presented in the packet.
And Madam Mayor, if I could just clarify, that includes resolution VBD 25024.
Oh, yes.
as referenced in the packet under 6A. We have a second?
I'll second. John Evans.
Great. Thanks, John Evans. We have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And now I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second by John Evans. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for jumping on
Thank you.
today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.